Hey folks, welcome back to another Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Heroes of the Sanctum, which is brought to you by Firetap Games. It's for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, and games generally run about 45 to 90 minutes. Sacred tomes speak of a rift between our realm and the darkness, a time when ancient manifestations of the dark will force us all to the edge of extinction. It is foretold that the last of the Sanctum's champions will stand between the coming terrors and oblivion. That time has finally come to pass. Heroes of the Sanctum, the strategy card game, is a portable, quest-based, solo cooperative adventure set in a dark, post-apocalyptic fantasy universe, where you will embark on perilous quests, assembling a party of 4 heroes from a selection of 12 unique characters to confront the creatures of the Rift and achieve their objectives. While traversing hazardous regions, you will interact with your surroundings, overcome threats, acquire loot, manage equipment, and advance your heroes while protecting their Sanctum banners. During each turn, you will draw a stratagem card that provides the party with action points, a temporary effect, and a variety of available actions. These actions can be assigned using distinct double-sided hero tokens. So, you are tasked with navigating imminent perils and striving to fulfill the objectives of the Sanctum. However, you must be prepared for the reactive responses of immediate threats and even the environment itself. Victory can only be achieved by meeting the specific conditions outlined on the chosen quest card. Do you have what it takes to stop the oncoming threat? Let's find out. Now, one of the first things you're doing here is picking your hero team. You need 4 heroes, and they all have unique powers and abilities, things that you try to mesh together to make the ultimate team, right? But there's so many to choose from, especially if you dive into the expansions and so forth. But let's take a closer look at the hero. In the top right corner is that hero's icon. Now, you're going to need the token of that hero so you can use it when you're performing actions through the game. And then on the far left, you have the hero's health. And below that is its attack strength and defense if they have any. And then you have a passive ability and a unique ability along with some flavored text. And you're going to be setting them up in these battle lines across from each other basically. And what's going to happen here is that you're going to put a Sanctum banner between 2 heroes. And that Sanctum banner is going to be the place that takes damage, and you're going to combine the values of the 2 heroes across from each other to determine the overall health that you can take. Obviously, you need to survive. That's one of the key things here. So managing damage is going to be crucial throughout the game. Now, any threats that come out are going to be aligned with the hero in that battle line next to them. And typically, the heroes are going to be attacking in their battle line. However, some heroes, like the marksman and others, will have the ability to target any of those battle lines. So they have ranged attacks, basically, is what it comes down to. And as threats come out, they typically come out in a clockwise fashion, hitting the first hero, second, third, fourth, and going around the table. And there can be multiple threats in a battle line. So there's several quests to choose from, all varying in levels of difficulty for sure, but there's also this really cool comic book with a really neat narrative to lead you through a special type of campaign and so forth. I love this comic book, it's so cool. But we're going to be looking at the basics here, so let's start with one of the easy quests, which is answering the call. The heroes arrive just in time to intercept a wave of creatures approaching the walls of the Sanctum, a fitting place to answer the call. These dark, savage beasts offer no mercy. There can be no retreat. There can be no surrender. The only choice that remains is to stand or fall as one. By decree of the Sanctum, the edict is given. Now, this card will also show your region stack setup. In the case of this, we only have one region that we're dealing with, which happens to be the walls of the Sanctum. And then usually there's some special rules around what you're doing. And we're going to create the threat deck here, but it's only going to consist of demonics, reanimations, shades, reapers, manipulators, and underhounds. Now, the other side of the quest card will show at the top what the win condition is. Here, it has to be fully scouted as well as surviving. Then you take a look at the region card, and it shows in the bottom right corner what the level of scout you need. So on your quest tracker, you'll have to have a level 6, and you will have obviously needed to survive in order to win this scenario. And below that will show at the different rounds or different time that you will start to introduce more threats at 3 and at 5. So each of those region cards are going to play into a lot of what's happening in the quest. If it's a bigger quest, you're going to have multiple regions you're going to have to pass through. In the case of this one, we just have the one, and through the course of playing, those regions will flip and do various things, have various effects, and they're also going to show you what the setup of proximities are. These are areas that you could potentially use, like the high ground, or perhaps putting out a fire that's flames encompassing you, or more importantly, there are things like chests and things that you can use in order to get some loot. So proximities are going to be varied and quite different from each quest as you move through them, and they're going to do all kinds of different things. And a lot of times you can use them to your advantage. And we already touched on it briefly, but you do have your quest tracker for tracking the rounds and the scouting that you need to do. And then we have our loot deck and our threat deck. Again, threat decks will be set up based on the scenario or the quest you're playing. And then we have stratagem deck of cards. Now, this is going to show you what actions are available to you for that particular round and how many points you can spend for those actions. For any of the red actions, you're going to spend 2 points. For any of the blue actions, you're going to spend 1 point. So you have to be very mindful about how you spend those and how you best utilize your team of heroes. Then there's some narrative text. Things might happen, as well as for this particular card, it comes full circle, which is what you'll typically start with. And after this round, you'll shuffle up the rest of the cards and you'll start from there. So each of them will do some various different things and have different types of points available, as well as different types of actions. So those are the basics around all the cards and things that you're going to be tapping into, but just know that based on the quest that you're picking will really change up how you set up the game, what gets put into play, and what your objectives are going to be. Each round of the game is divided into 4 phases. You have the hero, you have the threat, the region, and finally the quest phase. And there's this handy quick reference guide to help lead you through each of the phases, as well as showing you what the available actions are for your heroes. So first off, we have that hero phase. And the first thing you're doing, if it's not the first round, is drawing the next stratagem card, which again dictates how many points overall you can spend, as well as what actions might be available to you. Again, spending your tokens related to the different heroes on various actions. The red ones again are going to cost you 2 points, the blue are going to cost 1. So let's take a look at attack, which is a red action costing you 2 points. So you'll take that hero's token and place it on the card, showing that action's been taken. Now, attacking is very straightforward. You just look at your attack value and you do it to the threat in your battle line. You do that amount of damage. And you've got tokens for tracking damage and various things as well. But also be mindful about all the different passive effects of your heroes. Like for the Thunderhammer, he gets a token for his shield blocking some incoming damage. Now this threat that he's going after has some pretty nasty abilities as well, where you'll see that the manipulator can do mind control and do damage back. But we can block some of that with our shield, but we still want to take this particular threat out. And when you do take this threat out, then you get to draw a loot card, because that is a condition of destroying this threat. So in this case, we draw a card and it happens to be the Elven Lightblade, which is a powerful weapon for sure. And all the loot cards are really cool because they're going to tuck under your hero, showing their ability. So here you get another passive ability, giving you a +1 on all your attacks. So that was just a quick example of attack, but based on the threat and the hero you're using, lots of different things here can happen in those battles and so forth. So you need to be mindful and use your heroes to their best abilities, right? Then the other red actions available to you are just very straightforward, like heal, remove a damaged marker. Or you might scout, which scouting is just going to move along that quest track. Or you can defend, set up defense, basically putting one of those defend tokens, a shield token, on your hero. And then finally, there is a plus, a red plus and a blue plus. But the red plus allows you to do any of the other red actions again. And then we have the blue actions, which are going to work a little differently, obviously, and they cost less. Use is one of the big ones. Some loot items has that use keyword on them, and you'll be able to use that action for them. Or the proximities that are around you, like we have this chest here. You can use the chest to get a loot item. Lots of different things with the proximity areas, though, and how you might interact with those. But use is the key way. And then you have taunt, where you basically can taunt an enemy and move them to a different battle line. You also have move, where two heroes can basically swap positions in the battlefield. And then we have assist, like a hero might be stunned and you can assist them and remove that stunned token that's on them, which is crucial because if you're stunned, you're not doing anything for that turn. And along with that, you can exchange items and do various things between the two heroes, which is really nice. And then of course, you also have that plus for the blue actions as well, allowing you to duplicate one of the actions that were already performed perhaps, and just doing it a second time. Phase 2 is the threat action, and much like the heroes, all the threat cards, all the enemies are going to attack, doing their basic damage to the heroes. And of course, you'll block it as needed if you have shields and things in place. But also, each of these threat cards have their own specific action that they'll do. This one, like the reanimation, is just going to move to another battle line, but others might do some other devastating attack. It just depends on the threat that's in play. And it's really just those two things. It's very quick and easy to manage as you move through these different phases. The third phase is the region phase. I like this because it's kind of the environment that you're in and how it reacts to what's going on and so forth. Now, you're going to first flip the region card that you're currently in, and you'll activate whatever keywords or whatever it says on the other side, like spawning more threats. Things like that can happen. And then each of the proximities that are around the heroes might have keywords that activate as well. Now, finally, within this phase, if you've completed and scouted all the areas of that particular region, you have the opportunity of moving on to the next region if you potentially have a stack of regions that you're moving through for that particular quest. And the final aspect of a round is that quest phase, where you're checking to see, did you meet the requirements of the quest? Did you win? Did you finish? Things like that. Or are you in rounds, in the case of this one, are you in rounds 3 or 5 and you're going to spawn more threats? All kinds of different things there, but you need to keep an eye on this, and you hope you're achieving the goals that it sets forth. And you move the time tracker showing that you're on to the next round, as well as reactivate threats that were used in the threat phase. So I didn't mention that, but in the threat phase, when one of the threats activate, you basically turn them to their side to show they've been activated. Well, here you're just resetting them back for the next round, and so they can attack again. And so that's just a brief look, an overview of what you're doing in a round. Obviously, it's very dependent on the quest, the environment, the threats, and the heroes that you put into play. You hope, in the end, you've come out on top and have defeated that quest. Alright folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now that said, this game plays so well solo. I played through several times, had a ton of fun, and the thing is that it really does change up how you play those quests and which heroes you put into play. I like that aspect, and the loot is so much fun for sure. Now, I have to say though that there are these expansions that I can't wait to dive into. They have the epic expansion, but the multiplayer one and doing some co-op, I can't wait to try that. That's going to be pretty neat. But one of my favorite aspects though, straight up, is this comic book campaign driven story, very heavy story, which I love. The artwork is fantastic, and just in general across the board, all the artwork looks amazing, and the game just plays so quick and easy. I really like it. Truly is compact and easy to take with you like they suggest. But folks, ultimately, if this looks like something of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it from me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.